What's up, everybody? Welcome to the stack. I'm neonmushroom. That's Trigger. And we got another, welcome back if you're new here. I usually say that. We got another EDH / Commander gameplay video for you guys. Before we get into that, it is running a little late for any of you who follow our community posts. As long as Calvin posted the community post, you'll know that the ceiling fell down here in the studio that we work out of. So we spent a part of the week putting the ceiling back where it came from. And now we got this video coming out, which is very, very long. With that said, you guys know everything you should need to, so let's get into who's playing, what decks those people are playing, and what opening hands they've decided to keep. And even before that, we're gonna get into some quick upkeep stuff.
As always, if you like this show or any of our other shows on YouTube, liking, sharing, and subscribing helps us out immensely. If you like our content and don't mind that extra mile, you can always support us over on Patreon, over at patreon.com/mtgthestack. Comment down below any of your thoughts and feelings, and we hope you enjoy the show. For opening hands, we have Jake on Xyris, the Writhing Storm. His opening hand includes Corvus Fury, Phyrexian Altar, Cyclonic Rift, Counterflux, Yavimaya Coast, Scalding Tarn, and Scavenger Grounds. After that, we have Ajdin rocking Ruhan of the Fomori. His opening hand includes an Arcane Lighthouse, Boros Garrison, Denitha Capuchin Paragon, Mountain, Pure Steel Paladin, Plains, and a Flooded Strand. Then it's Guy slinging spells with Ludevic and Ludevic. His opening hand includes a Steam Vents, an Island, Lightning Stormkin, a Flame Slash, Unsubstantiate, Miscalculation, and a Spell Pierce. And then, finally, Adrian rocking Nicol-Bolas the Ravager. His opening hand includes a Sunken Hollows, Sulphurous Springs, Steam Vents, Wooded Foothills, Rhystic Study, Talisman of Curiosity, and an Arcane Signet.
Alright, Jake wins the die roll, so he's going to lead off. He'll draw a card and play Scalding Tarn, immediately losing a life to fetch and go get a Ketria Triome into play tapped. We'll move the turn over to Ajdin, who will just drop a Flooded Strand, and pass over to Guy, who will drop a Steam Vents tapped, and then we'll pass to me. I'm going to play Wooded Foothills as my land for turn, and pass the turn back over to Jake. He'll just start with a Yavimaya Coast and try to ship the turn, but before he can, Ajdin will fetch for a Hallowed Fountain, which comes into play tapped and drops him to 39. Then we'll move to Ajdin's turn. He'll untap draw, play a basic Plains, tap out for Pure Steel Paladin, and then we'll move right over to Guy's turn. He'll untap, play basic Mountain as his land for turn. He's going to tap out for a Kari Zev and pass the turn to me, but before he can, I'll fetch that Wooded Foothills, and I'll search my library for a Blood Crypt. It will come into play tapped, drop me to 39. I'll draw a card and play Sunken Ruins as my land for turn. I'll take my turn tapping out, playing Arcane Signet, and we'll pass the turn back to Jake, who will drop Basic Forest as his land for turn and just pass back to Ajdin. Ajdin will play a basic Mountain, and he's going to tap out for a Denitha Capuchin Paragon. At this point, he's going to cast Infiltration Lens, which costs 1 less because of the Paragon. He'll draw a card to the Pure Steel Paladin. He'll head into combat, attack Jake for 2, and pass the turn over to Guy, who will draw and play a basic Island.
Pure Steel Paladin, you say?
Hey, let that thing live.
Hell no.
Guy's going to tap for red and blue, and he's going to cast Lightning Stormkin, a 2/2 with flying and haste. Then he's going to tap for red and Flame Slash the Paladin. He'll head into combat and turn everything sideways at Jake, creating Kari Zev's Monkey, dealing 5 damage, and then he's going to pass the turn to me. I'll lead on Sulphurous Springs as my land for turn. I'll tap for 2, and I will play Talisman of Creativity. After that, we'll tap out and play a turn 3 Rhystic Study, and we'll pass the turn right back over to Jake, who draws, plays a Hinterland Harbor, and then he'll tap out for a Sky Shroud Claim, not paying the Rhystic Study tax. He's going to search his library for a Stomping Ground and a Breeding Pool. They'll come into play tapped, and we'll move over to Ajdin's turn. He will untap and draw for turn, and play Arcane Lighthouse as his land for turn. After that, I'll tap out for his Commander, not paying the Rhystic Study tax, so I will get to draw a card. After that, he's going to head into combat and attack Guy for 2 damage and gain 2 life. We then remember that it has Vigilance. We'll move to Guy's turn, and he'll start with Fiery Islet.
How many cards do you have in your hand there?
6.
6. Jake, how many cards do you have in your hand?
6.
Motherfuckers.
How y'all doing? I guess we know what izzet pairings are better.
Shit.
Guy's gonna tap 3 and lose 1 to Fiery Islet to cast Ludevic, Necro-Alchemist. He won't pay the tax, so I'll draw a Rhystic Study. Then he's gonna head into combat. He's gonna turn both of his creatures sideways at me for a total of 5 damage. After that, he'll trigger his Commander and pass the turn to me. I'll draw a card and drop Basic Island as my land for turn. I'm then gonna tap 2 and play Rakdos Signet, and then I'll tap for 4, and I'm going to play my Commander, Nicol-Bolas the Ravager. That will trigger, all my opponents will have to discard a card, and with nothing else, we'll pass the turn back over to Jake. Jake will drop Scavenger Ground as his land for turn, then he's going to tap for 6 mana to cast his Commander and pay the Rhystic Study tax. After that, we'll move to Ajdin's turn, and he will draw, then he's going to tap for 1 mana to equip his Commander with the lens. After that point, we're going to go to combat, and we do have to randomly decide who he attacks, so after rolling a die, it turns out that it is Jake. So he's going to swing at Jake, and Jake does not block, so he takes the hit for 7. Then I'll tap 3 mana to cast Brass Squire, and then he's not going to pay the tax, so I'll draw off of Rhystic Study. Jake will make a snake. Then I'll drop Boros Garrison as his land for turn, bouncing the Arcane Lighthouse, draw a card off of Ludevic, and we will pass the turn to Guy. After drawing his card, he's going to head straight into combat and attack me with Kari Zev. It has Menace, so I can't block it, but my Commander can block the token. I'll take 1 damage, Guy's going to move to his end step, draw a card off of his Commander, Jake will make a snake, and then we'll pass to my turn. I'll untap and draw a card for turn. I'm going to play Basic Mountain as my land for turn. Then we're going to head to combat and turn Nicol-Bolas sideways at Ajdin, dealing 4 commander damage, and in my second main phase I'll cast Dragonlord Silumgar, which does wind up resolving, so I'll steal Jake's Xyris. With nothing else, I'll move to my end step. I dealt damage to one of my opponents, so I'll draw a card off of Ludevic, and Jake will not make a snake because I control Xyris. We'll move to Jake's turn, and he's just going to tap 3 mana, and he's going to play Phyrexian Altar. He will opt to not pay the tax on Rhystic Study, so I will draw a card. Then he's going to use 2 snakes for mana to single target Cyclonic Rift his own Xyris back to his hand.
Move to combat.
Don't do it.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty bad idea. I'll pass.
Smart.
Moving to Ajdin's 6th turn, he'll untap, draw a card, and then he's going to play Darksteel Plate, which will resolve. At that point, he's going to tap his Brass Squire to equip Darksteel Plate to his Commander. He'll then redeploy that Arcane Lighthouse and tap it for 1 mana in order to pay the Rhystic Study tax for Shadow Spear. All of this resolves, so Ajdin is now going to attempt to move into combat.
Does he have hexproof? Indestructible. Ideal.
We'll once again set up some dice because his commander's attack is at random. We roll it and it turns out he's going to be attacking Guy. He turns his commander sideways, but Guy has a response. He's going to tap for 2 so he can Vapor Snag the Ruhan and pay the Rhystic Study tax, and this does resolve, so Ajdin takes 1 damage. That 1 damage does result in him drawing a card to Ludevic at end of turn. Then Guy's also going to take 1 to Brainstorm and pay the Rhystic Study tax at the end of Ajdin's turn, and we'll move to Guy's 6th turn. He'll play Scalding Tarn as his land for turn. Then he's going to turn his Kari Zev sideways at me, and I will block the token, taking 1 damage. Then in Guy's second main phase, he's going to tap for 3 mana in order to cast Young Pyromancer and pay for the Rhystic Study tax. After that, he'll respond to his Ludevic's trigger, he'll fetch with Scalding Tarn for an island, dropping to 35, and then I'll draw a card. After this point, he'll pass the turn to me, and I will draw my card for turn, and play Underground River as my land for turn. After this, we're going to head into combat, and I'm going to attack Jake with both Silumgar and Nicol-Bolas, dropping him down to 18 life. In my second main phase, I'll cast Spark Double. Jake has a response. He's going to tap for 3 and counterflux the Spark Double, sacrificing a snake to the altar to pay for the Rhystic Study tax, and then I'm going to tap the rest of my mana and just play the Scarab God, which does resolve. After this point, we're going to go ahead and draw a card off of Ludevic and pass the turn to Jake for the 7th cycle of turns. After drawing his card, Jake will tap 5 to cast Xyris, and then he's going to pay 1 mana to pay for the Rhystic Study tax.
I got a response. Sure you fucking do.
Ooh. Guy. Well, just let the Izzet players go
No. Counter it.
I don't have
Counter
any
the shit out
responses.
of
I'm
him.
tapped out as fuck.
Fucking end his life.
Do you have anything that gets haste?
No, I would be so ecstatic right now. I want to eat somebody. This is my Falcon.
I don't want to make Adrian draw more fucking cards.
Dude, it's too late. We're so
Too
far
late.
past that
Too
point.
late. You started.
Guy's going to tap 2 mana, including his Fiery Islet, and he'll drop down to 34 because of it, and he'll cast Miscalculation, countering Xyris, and he will not pay the Rhystic Study tax, so I get to draw another card. After that, Jake has 1 more action. He'll tap his Triumph for green, playing a Burgeoning, not paying the Rhystic Study tax, and we'll pass the turn back over to Ajdin. Ajdin will tap for 4 mana and redeploy his commander.
Would you like to,
You know,
pay 1?
draw a card. Just draw.
Add that to the collection.
He'll then tap Brass Squire to equip his Darksteel Plate to his commander, and then he's going to tap for some mana so he can equip the lens to his commander as well. He'll then drop his land for turn, which will be Scalding Tarn. He'll fetch, dropping to 35 to get a Tundra into play untapped. He will then use his last 2 remaining mana to equip his commander with the Shadow Spear, and pass the turn to Guy, who will untap and draw a card for turn, head into combat and attack me with Kari Zev. I will block with the Scarab God, and then Guy's going to move to end step and draw a card off of Ludevic. We'll pass to my turn. I'll untap, draw a card, play Sunken Hollow as my land for turn. I'm then going to head into combat and turn everything I've got sideways at Guy. He does have a response. He'll tap for 3 mana, 2 of it to cast Unsubstantiate, 1 to pay for the Ristic Study tax. He's going to target Silumgar and trigger Young Pyromancer. I do have a response. I'm going to tap for 4 mana to activate the Scarab God, which will target Spark Double, and it will enter the battlefield copying Silumgar as a non-legendary copy of it, so the Legend will not kill either of them. Then we're going to take the Ludevic, we're going to allow Young Pyromancer's trigger to resolve and make a token, then we'll resolve the Unsubstantiate, and I'll return Silumgar to my hand. We'll move to blocks, Guy will decide to block both of my creatures and take no damage, and then we're going to move to my second main phase. I'll go ahead and tap my remaining 6 mana, and I'll recast that Dragon Lord Silumgar. This time when it enters the battlefield, I'm going to steal Ajdin's Commander, and I'm going to keep all the equipments attached to it until he decides to reattach them. I will then discard, pass the turn to Jake, who will play a Command Tower.
Are you just one short of yeeting us all?
Yeah,
Is that what
And I have been for the past 4 turns.
Is that what I just heard?
You'll remember when he said, I'm out of the game, and I didn't go, oh, you poor fucking thing. What are you gonna do? He's a lotus petal away from killing all of us.
Fuck it.
I forgot you had
Reforge the
Spark
soul.
Double in the graveyard.
Everybody drops their
what
hand,
the-
draw 7 cards.
You're gonna... Probably not, because I
No.
discard it, right? Yeah. I'm gonna choose not to draw.
Is this happening?
Yeah.
Is this happening?
Oh, fuck, I don't need this. What is this for? I got that. Uh-oh, guys got a response. Guy lose 1.
Searing
You're
spear.
gonna lose 1, you're gonna draw a card and steering spear.
I'm not gonna draw.
Okay.
After a whole bunch of banter that Reforge the Soul will resolve, we're all going to functionally wheel, then we'll pass the turn right back over to Ajdin. He'll draw and play Command Tower as his land for turn. This will trigger Burgeoning, so Jake gets to drop a land as well. Then Ajdin will tap some mana and play Death Renderer, choosing to pay the Ristic Study tax. He will then tap his Brass Squire to equip the Death Renderer to his Paragon, and he's going to tap the rest of his remaining available mana so he can drop Propaganda. This time he will not pay the tax and I will draw a card. After that, Ajdin's going to head into combat, and he's going to go ahead and attack Jake for 4 damage, move to his end step, trigger Ludevic, and will pass to Guy's 8th turn. He'll drop Castle Embereth, which triggers Burgeoning, so Jake will drop a Rootbound Crag. Then Guy's going to get busy with that token, bringing Jake down to 13. Before he can pass, Jake's going to activate Scavenger Ground and exile everyone's graveyard. Guy will draw a card off of Ludevic and will pass to my turn. I'll scry 1 thanks to the Scarab God trigger, I'll keep it on top, then I'll play Island as my land for turn, triggering Burgeoning, and I'll head into combat.
Yes.
It's you.
Ruhan's going to go at Ajdin, and then everything else is going to be turned sideways at Jake. I do have to pay 2 to pay for Propaganda. Then, Guy's going to have a response before we go to blocks. He's going to exile a card and cast Pyrokinesis. With that on the stack, it will trigger the Young Pyromancer. I'll tap for 6 and play Sublime Epiphany. Guy has a response to the Sublime Epiphany. We'll talk about the targets for it in a moment. He's going to hard cast Force of Will, targeting the Sublime Epiphany and triggering the Pyromancer. I'm going to tap for 3, and I'm going to disallow the Force of Will. From here, that's going to finish the stack, so we'll start resolving it top down. By the way, Guy doesn't pay the Ristic Study tax on any of that, so I draw some cards. We're going to go ahead and disallow the Force of Will, trigger the Young Pyromancer, then Sublime Epiphany is going to go off, countering Pyrokinesis. I'm going to go ahead and bounce the Death Renderer, and then I'm going to go ahead and copy my own Nicol-Bolas. It'll enter the battlefield, causing all my opponents to discard a card, and then I'll sacrifice the token copy. After they've all discarded, there is one more effect in the Sublime Epiphany. I will choose to draw a card. After this point, we're going to move to blocks, and there are no blockers to be declared, so Jake will be put out of the game due to lethal combat damage. Ajdin will take the hit from Ruhan, and will pass to Ajdin's turn. He'll play a basic island as his land for turn. He's going to count out and tap for a total of 6 mana, so he can play Narset, Enlightened Master, and he will not pay the Ristic Study tax. He will then tap for 3 more mana to cast Death Render for its reduced cost thanks to the Paragon, not paying the Ristic Study tax. He'll then tap the Brass Squire to equip Narset, and will move to Guy's turn. Guy's going to untap, draw, and play Flooded Strand as his land for turn. Then he's going to tap for a blue mana and cast Preordain, not paying the tax. He'll resolve the Preordain, and he's going to trigger Young Pyromancer. After shipping 2 cards to the bottom and drawing a card, he's going to go ahead and crack that Flooded Strand, searching his library for an island and dropping to 32 life. He'll tap out, losing 1 to the Fiery Islet to play his second commander, Kraum, Ludevic's Opus. He's going to pay for the Ristic Study trigger, and he's going to turn all of his creatures except for the Summoning Sick token at me. That's going to trigger Kari Zev, and I have no blockers, so I'm going to drop down to 23 life, and then he's going to pass the turn back over to me. I'll untap, and I'll draw my card for turn. In my first main phase, I'll tap my mountain for red, and I'm going to cast one of the latest Soul Rings I think I've seen on this channel so far. Then we're going to go to combat, roll a die. Guy loses the die roll, meaning that I'm attacking him with everything. Guy's going to choose to declare no blocks, drop to 5. Then in my second main phase, I'll cast Entomb. I'll search my library for a Jink Attacks as Core Augur and put it in my graveyard. After this point, I'm going to activate the Scarab God, and I'm going to target that Jin-Kataxis, reanimating it as a 4/4. I'll tap 2 mana so I can play Talisman of Dominance. Guy's going to draw a card off of his second commander. And then basically, just because I feel like it, I'll tap for 1 blue and I'll play the Fish, Mystic Remora. Then at end step, we'll trigger the Jin-Kataxis, I'll draw 7 cards, go to discard, and pass the turn to Ajdin for the 10th cycle of turns. He'll open up the turn with the basic plains as his land for turn, and he has this really dangerous Narset. He's going to turn sideways at me, and that's going to trigger her. She'll reveal Blade of Selves, Render Silent, Dowsing Dagger, and Black Blade Reforged. After that, before blocks, I'll tap 4 to activate the Scarab God, and I'm going to reanimate my second Praetor, Shieldred Whispering One. I'll declare no blocks and drop to 26.
Blade of Selves.
Yeah, it's goofy.
Dowsing Dagger.
You paying? You gotta pay 5 for each.
Yeah, no, fuck.
Draw 1,
When
2, 3, 4.
when you cast Dowsing Dagger, I draw a card.
Yes.
Another one? I'll draw 2.
Black Blade Reforged.
I'll draw 2.
When you cast Dowsing Dagger, somebody gets plant tokens.
Give it
Give him to Guy.
away.
After Guy generates his 2 plant tokens, Ajdin's going to tap the Brass Squire in order to equip his Narset with Black Blade Reforged. After doing so, he's going to tap for 4 mana, and he's going to cast Storm's Wrath, which is going to deal 4 damage to everything on the board. He will pay 5 mana for the Ristic Study and the Mystic Remora, then we'll resolve that Storm's Wrath, clearing out a lot of the board, but not quite all of it in my case, and we'll move over to Guy's 10th turn. Guy's going to open up by tapping 2 and casting Snap, targeting Ruhan, not paying either tax, so I will draw 2. He forgets to untap 2 lands, then we'll put Ruhan back in his controller's hand. He'll play Polluted Delta, immediately fetching for an island, dropping to 4 life, and then he's going to tap for some more mana and play Siren Stormtamer, paying the tax, and Fairy Seer, paying the tax. After that, we'll move back to my turn. I'm going to choose to not pay the upkeep cost for the fish, and then I'll draw my card for turn. I'll go ahead and play Basic Island as my land for turn, and then I'm going to count out and tap 3 black mana and 5 generic mana so I can cast Myojin of Night's Reach. I'll immediately remove the Divinity counter, causing both of my opponents to discard their hands. Ajdin will rezone his commander, and then I'm going to tap for 5 mana and cast the Eldritch Reborn. Guy's going to sack the fairy, Ajdin sacks his only creature, then I'll head into combat. I'll turn the god and the dragon sideways at Guy. We're going to move to blocks, and he's going to block the Scarab God in order to stay alive, and that will drop him down to 1 life. In my second main phase, I'll tap for a black and lose a life to cast Reanimate. I'll reanimate Nicol-Bolas, losing 4 life, move to discard, and then I'll pass the turn over to Ajdin, who will draw a card for turn.
Rohan, it's your boy.
You want to pay 1?
No.
Okay, cool.
Draw all the cards.
I'm so glad I'm breaking your will to play.
Fucking.
Ajdin's going to stay true to the Voltron strategy and equip his commander with both Shadow Spear and Darksteel Plate. With nothing else, he passes the turn to Guy. Guy makes a bit of a mistake here. He's going to cast his second commander, Kraum, Ludevic's Opus. He pays the tax, which should kill him because it's a fiery islet. We miss it. Luckily, it doesn't end up mattering. When he attacks me, I'll block with Nicol-Bolas. That'll kill his commander. Then he's going to pass the turn back to me. Starting my 11th turn, I'll untap an absurd amount of mana sources, all my creatures, move to my main phase, trigger the Eldritch Reborn so both of my opponents have to discard a card, then untap for 5 and cast Dark Intimations. This is going to cause Ajdin to sacrifice his commander yet again, and then he's going to have to discard a card, so will Guy, but he has no creatures or cards. I will then draw a card and buy back Dak Faden. Then I'm going to head into combat, and I'm going to attack Guy with Silumgar and Ajdin with everything else. This kills Guy, then I'm going to cast that Dak Faden.
Why though?
Because I want to use his ability.
No, you
Minus
no,
2.
you don't.
I do.
Why?
Yeah,
You know what? Take 1 mana, right? 1 mana or 2 mana?
Anything. It's just an artifact.
Oh, it's any
I can take
artifact.
whatever I want.
You know what? Here's the pile. Enjoy yourself, kiddo.
I'm going to take Black Blade
Wow.
There you go, buddy.
After unlocking a really weird Vorthos achievement, I'll attach the Black Blade to Myojin of Night's Reach and pass the turn over to Ajdin. Moving to the 12th cycle of turns, Ajdin will draw his card and he's going to count out a whole bunch of mana in order to cast his commander yet again. He won't pay the study tax.
I'm gonna equip this.
Hold up, that doesn't resolve.
Oh no, okay.
I'm going to cast Insidious Will to counter it.
Nice. It's coming back, bro.
Yeah.
I don't know why you're
definitely
countering
believe
it.
you. You good? He's at 20, right?
Yeah, both of you are at 20.
Please.
I want to untap, upkeep, draw. We're going to trigger here. The Eldest is going to die off. I'll buy back that. I'll do land for turn.
You just want to have him on the board.
I do, it's true. You're at 20?
Yep.
1, 2,
Black
3,
blue, that's
4,
great.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 25. No, 23. 23, he's right.
Pay
Yeah.
2 for each attacking.
Nice.
Your game 6.
I win the game.
Fuck me in motherfucking booty.
Alright, well, I'm really glad that was recording for that. That was a long game. If my math is correct, and by math I mean if I looked at the numbers correctly, it was like almost a 20-minute game, so I'll try to keep this little segment a little on the shorter end so the video doesn't hit a half hour. I like to talk about the decks in order of, well, Calvin, you like to do them from who wins last all the way up to who dies first?
Yep.
I don't do that. I want to talk about who is the most impactful and the least impactful. And I think when it comes to impactfulness in this game, I would say that, yeah, I'd have to say that Guy's deck maybe did the least amount of stuff. He was playing that Ludevic and Kraum, Ludevic's Opus deck, and it's kind of a spell slinger's deck. He was slinging spells, he was drawing extra cards, but it seemed like at every corner he just kind of fell behind, unfortunately. He had some meaningful plays. He killed a Pure Steel Paladin, which is actually an insane card draw engine outside of Ajdin's deck, which we'll talk about in just a moment. And he also did pressure me quite a bit, although I did a thing where I gained some life, which we'll also talk about in a moment. But outside of those few things he didn't impact the game in many ways. Kind of unfortunate. Hopefully we see some more out of that, Ludevic and Kraum Ludevic's Opus deck, because it's kind of a cool deck. I wouldn't say it's a Vorthos deck, it's just those partners are really cool together because they share the same little universe together. So there's that. Next in order, I think we'll talk about Xyris, which feels really weird. For any of you who've been subscribed for a while, you've seen Jake Dillon's Xyris deck from like a few months back. He hasn't been on the channel in a minute because he started a new job and he moved away, but now he's back. And his Xyris deck is actually incredibly competitive. I'm trying to get that list for you guys so you can see it. So if it's not in the description, hold tight. I actually have to go get the list from him. He's not part of our direct play group, so I can't just get it like that, unfortunately. His Xyris deck kind of just tries to storm off and go infinite pretty quickly. It uses cards like Phyrexian Altar and Cryptolith Rite with some type of a haste enabler to just continuously wheel until he's able to find an Impact Tremors or a Purphorus, and then we just all die to snakes hitting the battlefield and killing us with Tremors triggers. He wasn't able to do that because he was pressured. We were all aware of how powerful his deck actually was. Moving along, we have Ajdin, who is playing Ruhan of the Fomori, and that deck was tight. It's a Voltron deck. Voltron deck's power levels are capped somewhere around the 6 or 7 area. I don't think I've ever seen like a Voltron deck be an 8, and you can't count Goto as a Voltron deck because it's not really. It kind of is, but not really. It's up there at like a 7-ish. Maybe this particular build was a 6. I'll have to take a look at it. I've had some time to tune different Voltron decks, so there might be some stuff that could be done differently. It was sweet. He played Ruhan a bunch of times. It got answered a bunch of times. He equipped it with a bunch of equipments. I think he swung with it like once, and then I took it and swung with it. And that's kind of why he didn't execute his game plan as well as it could have been executed. I was playing Nicol-Bolas, and Nicol-Bolas likes to prey on these decks that want to go tall, and I guess the randomly attacking thing didn't help him very much either. There's not a lot to talk about with the Nicol-Bolas deck, other than highlighting what the MVP of the deck was. And it's not going to come as a surprise to anybody when I say the MVP was Rhystic Study. I played Study on 3, no one had an answer. I outdrew everyone like 10-1, and by the time Ajdin had enough traction to maybe try to kill someone, I cast Silumgar, stole his Ruhan. At some point I owned everyone's commander, using Silumgar and reanimating Spark Double. And I just won the game through like attrition, grinding, and at some point it stopped mattering what I did because I had so much card advantage. And that's kind of what the Nicol-Bolas deck does. So if anyone wants to see the Nicol-Bolas list that hasn't been uploaded yet, it's something I'm working on very shortly after the upload of this video. But it will be in the description probably. If you're watching, if you're someone down in the comments typing first, it might not be in the description yet, but it will be uploaded. Reason I'm saying that, it's going to be taken apart. I want to do some other Grixis stuff on the channel that's not Nicol-Bolas. So if you like the Nicol-Bolas deck, it's not going away forever, but it is going to be taken apart temporarily. I think that's all I have for you guys. Calvin, is there anything else? Nope. There's nothing else. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, see ya next time. I'm cutting this recording.
Hey,